Welcome to the new Stewardship and Engagement update from your EQ Investors team. I'm Johnny Bowie and I'm joined by Louisiana Salge, and today we're going to give a little stewardship update. So stewardship sort of refers to all the powers provided to investors as shareholders to maximize long-term value for clients, both financial and sustainable. And at EQ, we really think that actively engaging and pushing for change is really important, and we acknowledge that no company is perfect or no asset manager is perfect. And today we're going to speak about one of our strategic engagement priorities, which is human rights. We can talk about why it's important and what levers and sort of engagement tools we have here at EQ to help push for change and create long-term value for our clients. So over to you, Louisiana. In terms of human rights, I guess, what has been your sort of reason for engaging on human rights?
Yeah, so, I mean, as sustainable investors, our aim is, of course, to avoid investing in those companies that have a track record of human rights abuses, right? That is the very big baseline. But unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that modern slavery is still very much present in our day-to-day lives, hidden in global supply chains, hidden behind lack of traceability and complexity, and we need to address this. There is a lot that businesses can do in order to improve that transparency, and that's exactly where we are hitting out. The other reason is that it's a financial risk. So if you think back a couple of years ago when controversies around the Uyghur rights and workers in China came out, it was a hit to the baseline of any company that was related to this. And this is, again, something that we cannot stomach, not for us and not for our investors. So both the financial and the sustainability case here led to that conclusion of engaging on human rights and supply chains.
Interesting. And so what sort of changes have you been engaging fund managers or asset managers on, and so what were the successes that you've had?
So our focus really has been to move asset managers away from looking at controversies, because that's really when things have already gone wrong, towards instilling and engaging on preventative approaches to human rights abuses. And what we mean by that is, for example, having good policies when it comes to their supply chain and code of conduct, grievance mechanisms for when things actually go wrong, and strong audits and transparency into supply chains so that we actually find out what is happening. And we've been quite successful. So we've instilled all of these as best practices, assessed fund managers, and any weaknesses that came out were automatic engagement points. And over 50% of our asset managers actually chose to adopt a new best practice, and another third actually committed to doing so in the next year.
Wow. And so what helps you assess whether a company is a sort of a leader in human rights?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, and we don't know everything. And what we try to do is try to take really specialist knowledge into account. Some of the ways in which we do this is we leverage research from the World Benchmarking Alliance, which is called the Corporate Human Rights Benchmark. You can look that up, it's all freely available. Know the Chain Benchmark, and also the CCLA Modern Slavery Benchmark. And all of these basically rate companies on various of these best practices that I just mentioned. And clearly, if there is a lagging practice or a policy identified through any of these external independent research bases, we know that in-depth engagement needs to happen.
Wow, that's a good few resources that we can leverage there. So I guess one of the big grey areas with the sustainable investing is that there can be some human rights issues with regards to sort of batteries, vehicles, and their value chain and stuff like that. But we also recognize that we need them in order to transition to a low carbon world. So what can you share about your engagement with those sort of underlying companies and the results of that?
Yeah, thank you. It is actually one of the most commonly, asked questions from our clients. How do we deal with that gray area? And the way that we do it is by engaging. And I'll give you a couple of examples of how we do this, specifically maybe focusing on the minerals needed for the energy transition. The first way that we do this is by attending annual general meetings. So last year, one of our colleagues, Dan Bland, he attended the AGM of Antofagasta, which is a UK-based UK listed, but Chilean copper miner. And that company actually has a clean track record, no great controversies to speak of. So that's why we think we're comfortable investing in it in certain portfolios that we manage. However, we did identify that there could be more transparency about the audit process and the due diligence that they're doing on their supply chains to really find out whether or not the social impacts that they're anticipating are actually happening on the ground. So this weakness was brought to the board. Dan asked a question to elevate transparency to shareholders on this particular front. And Antofagasta was really receptive, actually, and said, it's great that we're bringing up something that peers are already doing, which shows them, it's something that is really desirable from shareholders. And they were really receptive and basically assured us that we could expect that in the next reporting period. And just to finish this off, another way in which we engage on conflict minerals is collaboratively. We are part of a collaborative group led by Steward Investors, which focuses on the semiconductors industry and their sourcing. In the last year, this collaborative engagement initiative tried to engage with 10 semiconductor companies to join the responsible mining group, which means that if they're part of this group, they can leverage their collective power to try to push their common miner suppliers to adhere to better human rights standards. So all of these above.
Great. And with all this exciting work underway, what's next with respect to human rights at EQ?
There's lots to do still. We've got exciting project coming along, which is going to help us lift the social agenda with all of our asset managers. What we've done is we've collected the voting records of 25 plus asset managers, and we can now see how they've voted on key social environmental resolutions. What is clear from this data is that not all managers are yet supporting all of the social environmental resolutions that we'd like them to. And when it comes to human rights, what we will use this data now this year in order to pinpoint weaknesses and lift fund managers' voting intentions up over the next year so that it is in line with what we'd expect for a sustainable mandate.
Great. Thanks for answering those questions today, Louisiana. That concludes our stewardship and engagement update today. Thanks for listening.